Everybody out there on YouTube, this is your man Shattuck Stick, and we're back. This is more of a discussion than anything, but it is related to some news. So I'll have an article discussing some of the news down in the description. This is discussing Final Fantasy VII Remake, mostly it being episodic. First, before we get into the episodic part, I wanted to say that the game is being made in Unreal Engine 4. You can see how graphically beautiful this game is already. It's not even done yet. So this shows us something that the game is what it's chalking up to be. But let's get to the episodic part. Final Fantasy VII will be the remake, at least, will be episodic. Now, the reason that Square said it being episodic, now you may take this as BS, you may take this as a bad thing. I'll try to look at it from both perspectives, because they did say this will stop content from being cut, which it would. Now, if you think about it, they have deadlines. When you're in the gaming industry, you have deadlines. We see rush games like Sonic 06 do bad. I'm not saying that if the game was rushed, it would necessarily be bad, but there would be a lot of content cut, which usually happens with a lot of Square games in its Japanese release, especially the Kingdom Hearts series. And the game is moving towards an action-oriented system like the Kingdom Hearts series, so I think they want to expand more on the gameplay and some of the story elements that are in Final Fantasy VII, maybe expanding on them, tacking on more and more as they go, because Final Fantasy VII itself, within the Final Fantasy franchise, is another franchise itself. We have games like Crisis Core, and we had a phone game called Before Crisis. Not a lot of people know about it, but it exists. And it being episodic could actually lengthen the game a bit, especially for people who are late buyers or just getting into it. They could buy one episode and get into it rather than having to buy the entire game. Now, when you look at other episodic games like the Telltale series, even though they aren't action-oriented, they can expand on story. The games are about 12 hours usually, and this is just The Walking Dead alone. I'm pretty sure many of the other games are are a few hours longer, or even much longer. And because of this allows the developer to do more than what they want. They don't have to, trim down certain scenes or, hold back on certain story elements. Like, what if the air scene could be, you already know how dramatic it was before. They could take this to another extent, another level. And, people aren't really looking at the positives of this. They're just looking at the negatives, which there are negatives to this that, you have people who will go in and, a lot of people will just play it just to play it. And if this first episode, say for instance, is only like, 3 hours at most, we're not getting our money's worth. The original game was about 40 hours. So if you calculate in the time to beat it, into it making it episodic, it may have about 5 episodes, which isn't bad. And each episode being quite a few hours could make it a really nice experience, especially if they give us more to do than just the story. If they give us lots of side quests and stuff, and the episodes release more as like major updates, this would change the feel for Final Fantasy VII Remake. This would make it a lot more appealing to fans and newcomers to the Final Fantasy series, because in all honesty, this is a game that gets people into Final Fantasy. A lot of people got into Final Fantasy through Final Fantasy VII, so you do have to realize there are some things that they, will do to tweak the game. And I really do believe it is, they're making it episodic to, prevent there being any content cut. And rather, if you release it episodically, you can basically release everything you had for one portion of the game, and then everything you have for another portion of the game, rather than cutting down content in certain portions of the game to get the entire game out. And that's really all I have to say on it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I'm out of here. Peace. This is me, your man Shattuck. Have a good one.